Blinking light. Blinking lights. Start this, and we're live. Hey, folks, this is Walt. I apologize because Mike Lafferty got caught in a strange transporter accident. He might be along in a little bit, as might Chuck Rice, but there was some miscommunication about Jack Bauer that we didn't understand. So we're going to get going and instead talk about Spider-Man Homecoming today. And to help me do that, we have a glorious roundtable of people who have both seen the movie or flat out refused because we're going to talk about Spider-Man comics. So starting from my left to my right, we have Mr. Abe Smith from across the pond.
Hello.
Excellent. We have Mr. Jason Tondro.
Hey guys, listen, if Mike got caught in a transporter accident, will he come back as evil Mike with the goatee?
Yeah, that's a good point. If he does come back with a beard, that's definitely...
So he would be a fainting goat with a goatee, so a fainting goatee.
Ah, that's true.
Nice.
Yeah, even Thomas Riker had a beard.
And then Mr. Christopher McLaughlin, who is on summer break. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
Still got,
good, huh?
Still got coffee. We're good.
I understood.
So Spider-Man Homecoming has seen some pretty good reviews. Most of the people that have seen it have already voiced their approval of it, including hopefully Chuck Rice, who just joined us. Have you seen the movie, Chuck?
I have.
Excellent. So since you just barreled into the room and struck your best Spider-Man action pose in your underoos, what you had them. What'd you think of the movie?
I liked it a lot. I think this might be the best villain in any Marvel movie yet.
Yeah, how much do we want to spoil here when we talk about this movie today?
Well, we're talking about it, so let's spoil it.
Okay.
Everything.
We're a week in, aren't we? So I think that's fine.
So go for it.
Well, there's this. I agree with Chuck. I remember when I was watching the film, and that moment when the front door of Liz's house opens up and it's Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I was dying.
Was the coolest moment in that movie, and because I thought I was like, okay, the plot's over. Like, what am I watching the rest of this movie for? And then bam. So that was very cool. That was well done.
Yeah, it's like hello, third act.
Yeah,
right. Now, what did you think about?
And in a way, that to me is sort of like your like Rorschach test about whether or not you're actually going to enjoy the rest of the movie. Because to me, if you're a true Spider fan, you're sitting there. You've been sitting there waiting for the incredibly improbable, crappy thing to happen to Peter. Somebody really close to him is a supervillain. I mean, that's almost a trope with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I understand there are a lot of people who are claiming about wild coincidence theater, and those are the people I just have to say, okay, fine, but that's the source material.
Yeah, you obviously never read Spider-Man.
The entire if you don't get the core concept of the entire universe hates Peter Parker, this is just not the character for you.
That's true.
And on that note, I thought the film was. I liked the film a lot too. I did not think it was perfect, however. And one of the problems I had with it is exactly this point. Do you remember when they all go to Washington and they have like the academic decathlon thing?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Peter is missing because he's trapped in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they totally should have lost that without Peter, and it should have been on a question that Peter was good at.
that would have been very Spider-Man. Yeah,
he didn't make it, and everybody let him off the hook for it. Like there was no repercussions to him having to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, but here's the thing: that movie. One of the things I liked about it is that MJ actually has a really great arc, and that is the point at which she stops becoming the outsider to their group of kids, right? And so I actually kind of like that moment.
Yeah, and it clearly was not done by accident. I mean, the movie makers are trying to make something which is a little bit less doom and gloom than a typical Spider-Man film, so it was not an accident that they won without him.
Well, and also that entire movie was screaming at Peter that MJ was the girl he should be interested in, not that boring, pretty girl that he was interested in. So, there's also that going on.
What did you guys think of the upgrades that come along with a movie that is trying to come forward, like like the suit?
Well, as somebody who the entire universe seems to be making me feel old. I'm pretty sure this may have been the week that somebody actually referred to me as being of another generation. but honestly, that to me was part of the amazing winning formula of this film, because to me, not only did they make the film that at its heart and at its core is truest to Lee and Ditko, they also managed to make a Spider-Man film that is going to speak to today's audience. Because as much as that is, on the surface, that may not seem like what Lee and Ditko created, to this younger generation, I mean, Spider-Man out there being a superhero without cell phone access in his suit, without having a pleasing female voice asking him, I noticed you've changed your web shooter settings. Would you like to make this your default setting? That's their world. That would not having that would be as weird to them as if they used the Flash Thompson that's on his way to Vietnam. That's so I'm really, really, really glad that they made a Spider-Man that speaks to the young people of today while still keeping what really makes that character unique and different and beloved to all of us people of another generation.
No, but I have to, okay, so since we've got a bunch of people here and you guys have seen a few Spider-Man movies over the last 50 years. And a lot of folks are saying, well, I think this is the best Spider-Man movie ever. Okay, I'm a big fan of Sam Raimi's takes, especially Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock, of course, which I think is one of my favorite superhero movies ever. What makes this version of Spider-Man better than the original Spider-Man film?
Well, I've already ticked off two of my favorite things about it. I'll give you a couple more. I love I think Tom Holland and Michael Keaton and the supporting cast are note perfect, but the two leads in particular, I think this is easily the best Marvel villain that we've seen since Tom Hiddleston's Loki.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a major upgrade just for this Marvel Cinematic Universe, is that too many of the villains have been ciphers or special effects.
Yeah.
I mean, not to the ridiculous degree that last X-Men movie was.
Right.
I mean, you hire Oscar Isaac to basically be something that a complete CGI effect could have played. I don't get that.
Yeah, they should have just hired a voice actor. Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would have been cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. But the other thing that put it over the top for me is that the Spider-Man films were great for their time, but they exist in a vacuum. To me, it's a real thrill to see a Spider-Man movie that really feels a part of the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Okay. So it's Homecoming in that sense, sure.
Yeah. And maybe it's probably been longer for me than it has for you since I've seen the Raimi films. But to me, there's always been an unofficial supporting character in the best Spider-Man stories, and that's New York.
Yeah.
I mean, I came in when Marv Wolfman was writing the character, and there were all these jokes about Abe Beam and and the garbage the garbage strikes and the blackouts. And to me, this is a movie. I mean, just that scene where he stops at the deli, where this is a film where this is a Spider-Man film where once again New York is a supporting character.
Right.
Well, and also I thought. And look, mopey, depressed Spider-Man is definitely a legitimate take on Spider-Man.
Are you talking about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man? I
am. Yeah. That the Sam Raimi movies went way too far in that direction for me.
Okay.
This is much more of the happier Dan Slott Spider-Man, and I like that better.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the physicality that Tom Holland brought to the part.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much like web swinging body humor.
Yes.
Because he doesn't really know how to do that yet. He's not very good at web swinging yet. And I wanted to hear like Greatest American Hero music playing. Talk about being old.
Honest, the scene where he's trying to interrogate the guy, and he just tells him to his face that you're not really good at this.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that was like my first 2 or 3 years in the classroom. There,
yeah.
You know, well, right there in a nutshell.
And I also liked. I would say. I loved that it was a Clockwork universe, because Spider-Man comics have always been a Clockwork universe. As you guys brought up earlier, you know, of course, the robbery takes place across the street from where he buys his subs, and it gets wrecked, right? Of course it does.
The burglar he fails to stop goes home and kills his uncle.
Right.
And, you know, it's a great role-playing game example, because this is where you would be pushing hero points at the other player. Like, you know, this is your deli. Like, you were just talking to this guy an hour ago in our game. Right? Like, you would be pushing and doing all this stuff. Like, oh, you open the door to your prom date. Oh, it's the Vulture. Give me hero points. You know, it's exactly how these games are supposed to work.
Yeah. Oh, and also, by the way, this movie actually made the Vulture make sense. He's actually a vulture. Mm-hmm. Let us not forget that.
Yeah, one of my
he's actually picking over carcasses.
One of my oldest comics was a Vulture comic, and he always kind of had a sentimental place in my heart because I read him when I was 7, you know?
Yeah.
But this was a great take on the villain. Like,
they
did a really great job making him an interesting character.
This is going to be the comic Vulture very quickly and until the end of time, I predict. That some Marvel writer is going to be like, this is better than
the same thing happened after Spider-Man 2 with Dr. Octopus. I don't know if you remember.
Right.
But that version of the character in the films was so compelling.
That's the superior Spider-Man version, honestly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't current Vulture dead? Isn't the Adrian Toomes Vulture dead in the comics?
I think he
died at one point. Yeah,
for all that matters in Marvel.
Yeah, I know that I think they've had at least one replacement Vulture, possibly even 2 since then. So the idea another one came along that feels that kind of I can see that happening completely.
Well, it's kind of like pitching the ninth inning for the Nationals. We all get a turn at being a replacement Vulture sooner or later.
Listen, you really would like this movie because it's got no relation to the comic books. I mean, it's not a comic book story. They're not adapting a famous comic story. It's really a new Spider-Man story in film, and I think that you would like it.
Yeah, exactly that. I've said this many times before. The idea that they convert stuff from the original stuff, and it's not 95% of the time. It's a story from the 70s, a story from the 80s. You've already seen before. You've probably even seen an animated version of it before. It's like that's cool. I like the costume. Number one, this costume looks good. It's red and blue, for Christ's sake. That's fantastic. I mean, it's like, oh well, it's a new Spider-Man movie count. Black costume every time. It's gonna be black. It's gonna be wearing black. That's a really good sign. So to see him actually in a red and blue costume, it's really cool. And I will watch it eventually. Well, maybe whatever. I will see it. But I've got the option to watch Amazing Spider-Man 2 or whatever it is now on Netflix. No,
don't do that.
Don't do that.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I watched the first one, and it's like,
The second one.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is like if there was an earthquake near your house and you came home and a lifetime's worth of Spider-Man action figures had all just fallen on top of each other.
Again, I like the Sam Raimi original.
I do too.
And I like it. And I like it because of what I like in this one is the fact that you see Spider-Man swinging around in the daytime.
Yeah.
You don't get like the last Godzilla movie. Oh, it's Godzilla, but you only see him in the dark. You only see him for 14 seconds, and then he goes disappears behind the building. It's like, he's Spider-Man, for Christ's sake. He's out in the daytime. He's doing his stuff, and I like that as well.
And Chris's point is you got a great point there when you're talking about how as great as that film is, that first Sam Raimi film, it is a product of its time. And nowadays, if someone's super suit doesn't talk to them, it's old fashioned. So I get that.
That's true. So I've got some questions for you. Is Iron Man overused in it, and could they have done it without Iron Man, or is he actually an integral part of the story?
He's not overused. Not overused. Yeah. I guess you could have slipped another character in there, but my God, I just don't know how many talents you have like Robert Downey Jr. floating around.
Yeah, he's one of the best actors in the Marvel movies.
The way that he's really important to the plot is this scene we've seen a lot in the trailers where he says something like, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve to have it.
Cool.
And so this is Iron Man sort of talking from his own experience. And there was a lot of concern before this film came out, like how dependent he would be on the suit. But the filmmakers wisely made it so that he has to, the whole point of the movie is to solve the problem without the suit. So he gets the suit for a while, then he fucks up and Tony takes it away, and then he has to go through the rest of the movie without it.
Well, and what I also liked is that I don't feel like they overused him, but I think this movie would have been very different without him, because this is a really a great look at post Civil War Tony Stark, by which I mean the Cap movie Civil War, where like one of his lines in the movie is where Peter says, "I'm trying to be like you." Tony's like, "No, don't try to be like me. For God's sake, anything but that." I mean, that's not exactly what he says. Is I would like you to be better than me, and thank God for that.
Yeah, so, I mean that was one of the most amazing things about like all these Marvel movies, which shouldn't work with the number of characters they have in some of them. But even though this is 100% a Spider-Man movie, you know, in the background, Iron Man's character develops and gets enriched, you know, and they do it with just a few lines of dialogue about pointing about how this is Tony trying to resolve Tony's relationship with Spider-Man is part based on trying to you know, resolve his own dad issues.
Yeah.
Happy Hogan even does pretty well in this movie.
Happy Hogan's great in this movie. Jon Favreau turning in a good performance.
Well, Jon Favreau, you know, pretty much created the this Marvel universe as we are.
Yes.
Jacob Blackman coming in and sliding in for home base.
Welcome, Jake. What did you think of the movie, Jacob?
Oh, I thought it was excellent. It is by far my favorite Spider-Man movie to date.
Well, the true measure of how much you like a movie is how much merchandising you have.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true.
I am being a freelancer. There are those moments of where I have lots of money and where I have very little money. Right now, I am in that I have very little money, so I don't have as much merchandise as I would like right now.
We are rich in love for Spider-Man.
Yes. I am full of love for Spider-Man at the moment.
Very good. Very good.
So what did you guys think of you know, we've already talked about how, you know, the Vulture is aptly named, and they, you know, they give him a purpose for being what he is, but what did you guys think of, like, I really liked his dignity. He had that like blue collar dignity to him where he was, I apologize, my dog is being whiny in the background. He had that blue collar dignity where he's like, "Hey, listen, I need to feed my family." You know, and then
that's the thing where I think we did a whole podcast on this, but I think that's where Marvel has it all over DC. Is Marvel, as a general rule, has better villains because the absolute best of them are guys that to some extent you can sympathize, maybe even agree with.
Yes.
And honestly, you know, the movie version, I mean, even the comic book version has been around since, you know, what, 63, 64?
Yeah.
And didn't have that Marvel element to the degree the movie version did.
You know, and to some extent, what was great about that was the way that they tied Vulture into Peter's own story.
Yeah.
So, because, you know, one of the common shortcuts that they make in these movies is they make the bad guy have the same powers as the good guy, so that you can see their similarity. But what they did in this movie, they took a much harder route, which is the Vulture and Peter do have something in common, but it's not their power set. What they have in common is that they are the underdog. They're the little guy. And so when Vulture explains to Peter, look, you know, nobody up there, they don't care about people like us. We're just little tiny, we're like carrion birds to them, just living off the corpses. And somebody's got to look out for us. That's why Peter turns Tony down at the end of the movie. To some extent, the Vulture wins. I mean, he persuades Peter to understand that, you know, your job is not to be an Avenger.
Right.
You got to look out for the deli man.
However, they also, at the same time, did a great job of showing you that this guy's also an absolute dirtbag. Like the end of that scene in the car where he's like, he makes Peter say thank you to him for not killing him. Yeah. You're just like, oh, fuck you, dude. I loved Tom Holland's performance because he did not do that bullshit movie thing of, oh, this is really humiliating for me to say thank you. He just looks at him and says, thank you, with such a flat affect that you can see in his eyes that he's just like, oh, fuck you, dude.
I was honestly expecting Peter to turn that around at the end because the line was, I just saved your life, say thank you.
Yes.
But Peter's not that dirtbag.
That to him, I was honestly expecting when Pete pulls him out of the burning wreckage, he was like, "What do you say?"
Yeah, but see, I think that's the difference between the two of them. Yeah, exactly.
That's the Zack Snyder version where he's stabbing him with a rusty fork. Say thank you. Say thank you. Say thank you.
Yes.
One of the things I really enjoyed about Michael's performance was that at the end, the very end scene, he's in prison talking to Gargan.
Yeah.
And they're like, who do you know who he is? And he's like, don't you think if I know he wouldn't be dead by now?
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
I think
he protects that. That's fantastic.
I think that's Keaton's I think that's Vulture's way of saying thank you to Peter for saving his life. Honestly.
There's a great, like, sort of a bunch of supporting bad guys in this movie, like the Shocker and the Scorpion and the Prowler and the
Tinkerer.
The Tinkerer. And they don't all become those characters yet, but it was handled so much more deftly than, for example, the last Spider-Man movie, which was so patently setting up a bunch of villains for a Sinister Six film.
Well, yeah, and this movie also really kind of, to me, one of the things I loved about it is that it kind of explains how the Marvel Universe would work, right? There's all this alien bullshit laying around that's going to be repurposed to explain, like, where the fucking Spy Master comes from, right?
Right. When I don't follow Donald Glover a lot, you know, I mean, I recognize him, but I haven't watched his shows. But when I saw him trying to buy stuff, and he said, no, I want something kind of non-lethal, I immediately realized,
Prowler.
That's the Prowler.
Yeah, totally.
And I didn't even need to read the credits, you know, and I just love that. And again, the Shocker is one of my old sentimental favorites because I had this comic when I was 6, you know, where the Shocker fights Spider-Man.
And of course, we all know when he says, I have a nephew that lives in this neighborhood, that his nephew's
Miles Morales. Yeah.
Oh, Jason, I can top that Shocker memory.
Oh, good. Okay.
When I was in elementary school, I had a Trapper Keeper binder where the cover, where like the art on it was stuff taken from a 60s Spider-Man comic where he fights the Shocker, and it reprints about like 8 panels from the comic.
Nice.
And I don't know if I've ever read 8 comic panels more than that Spider-Man Shocker fight.
Yes.
And one of the happiest moments of my life was about 10 years ago. I finally tracked down that issue and got to read the rest of the freaking comic.
The Shocker is such a crazy, like, ridiculous villain, but the costume is so weird. You know, the brown and the yellow with like the padded yellow things on it.
Now, Chris, I have to ask, how disappointing was that comic?
Oh, it was Lee Ditko. It was worth the wait.
All right, good.
Lee and Ditko never let you down.
That is true.
I've got a question there from the Miles Morales little sneaky. Is that a good idea? That's the question. Because now, the thing, I've said this before again, because I say lots of things many times before. The thing that always bugged me about Arrow was, hey, here's Green Arrow. Oh, here's 700 archers that also have Green Arrow as well, because one archer's not enough. Now, the idea that you're already putting in a second Spider-Man, or at least a potential second Spider-Man, in your first Spider-Man film, is that a good idea?
Well, no, it wouldn't have been. But again, it's such an oblique reference.
Yeah, we don't see it.
Right. Yeah. It was honestly there just to be an Easter egg for the fan because people know that this guy is the Prowler. The Prowler has a nephew, and his nephew is Miles Morales.
That's cool.
An incredibly popular character, so they're just giving him a nod.
And at the most egregious, they could just possibly be setting up a seed for the day when 40-year-old Tom Holland, they can't afford him anymore.
Yeah.
with his 6-film contract.
That's all I know. All I know is what I saw on the websites, and they said they put not. So I don't know if you see the guy, or whatever. I thought, but that's cool because I think you're exactly right. If once you've got 2 or 3 Spider-Man down, Tom Holland says, "Right, that's it. Okay, we're moving on to Miles Morales Spider-Man." That's the way to do it. But I just thought it's odd to go, "Hey, you like one Spider-Man? Hey, you must love 2 Spider-Men." It seems weird.
It's even less than what they did with Winter Soldier. Like where in the Winter Soldier you get that one shot of Bucky holding the shield, right? And that's enough for people who know where that story goes in the comics to go, fuck yeah. So this was even literally, it's just Donald Glover saying, I don't want super weapons around here. I got a nephew that lives in this neighborhood. And either you are like, oh, hell yeah, or you're just like, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
The funny thing is, unfortunately, as cool as it would be for us to imagine Tom Holland retiring as Spider-Man and them casting Miles Morales to take over, that what'll actually happen is they'll rewind the whole character over again.
Well,
we'll be back to Uncle Ben.
Well,
shot.
I don't know. I could see, even if it's not Tom Holland, I could see a potential movie where they cast an older guy to play Spider-Man for one movie, kill him, and introduce Miles Morales. I could see that happening.
I think it's
maybe,
but
we still
popular. So.
But we still live in a universe where Harrison Ford is still somehow Indiana Jones. So
that's
true. See, but they desperately tried to at least introduce him as the mentor to Shia LaBeouf. And
but there you go.
It's not their fault that movie was so terrible.
You just put your finger on it. The problem was it was Shifty LaBeouf or whoever he is.
Yeah, but Marvel's never going to cast Shia LaBeouf, so we don't have to worry about that.
This was the
Thank God.
There in the comics, because as soon as the movies started popping up and being regular, the comics started going, "Hey, female Thor, Amadeus Cho as the Hulk, different Captain America. We can recast everybody in the movies, and we don't have to have the same people." That seemed to be like the conspiracy theories. Like they're just going to say, "Don't worry about those people. They're going to go off in a couple of years' time. These are the new Thor and Captain and Hulk. Don't have to worry about the other guys." So,
you know what? If they ever made a Cap movie where Chris Evans dies and Sebastian Stan takes over, I think fans would love it, and I think the women of America would.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say the fans might accept it, but nobody is going to be happy to see Chris Evans leave.
I think that's
probably true.
I can see the Secret Empire movie is going to hit real big in a couple of years' time.
Fuck Secret Empire so hard.
If they're going to do the Secret Empire storyline, I'd rather they do the storyline they did back in the 1970s.
Amen.
Where Cap reveals that the leader of the Secret Empire is the president.
Yeah.
That would be, people would be like, oh, that's too predictable at this point. People would be like, oh, sure, yeah, you're going there. That's the laziest idea anyone ever had. Donald Trump is the bad guy.
He's involved in the presidency. That's ridiculous.
That's because
I tell you one major downside to that. Okay. One of the many things that I love about the Marvel movies is I go to see them and nobody in the movie is resisting anything. Nobody's calling anybody a cuck. Really, if these things want to leave the politics way in the background, believe me, I'm just going to keep giving them more and more of my money the more they keep doing that.
Yeah, the closest they've come is with that World Shadow Council. And what I love about that is that even those guys who are like, the deep state, that they're so dumb and incompetent that it's you just see this long-suffering look on his face like, these guys, really?
Yeah, and you can't say this isn't something we haven't seen in the comics before. This isn't somebody beating you upside the head with their agenda.
Yeah.
So
I prefer it when they don't touch real world politics at all.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Speaking of beating somebody across the head with an agenda, what did you guys? This is an awful segue. What did you guys think of Batalon as Ned, the best friend?
Well, I tell you, Ned reminded me of high school, only I was less cool.
Well, honestly, I liked the fact that Pete had a friend, because in no other incarnation, not even the comics, did Pete have a friend in high school. And do you know how weird that is?
Right.
To be so isolated that you don't even have one single friend. You wouldn't just be the weirdo. You would just be the nerd. You would be the loser at school.
The little bits I've seen out of it reminds me of the Blue Beetle, the current Blue Beetle.
Yeah,
with him and his pal always going on features. Yeah. I thought that's cool. Yeah.
I loved him. He was fantastic. I just thought he was a great foil. But not foil, but a great addition to Peter's world.
Yeah.
That moment when they're in the bedroom and like Ned sits up and he's wearing the Spider-Man mask.
Yeah.
Because
that is so
that's
real.
what you would do. Yeah. Like I thought he did a great job. And he even sort of gets his little moment of triumph when he's the guy in the chair.
He's the guy in the chair. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, I'll tell you why. I'll make this public. What the heck? I'll give a little treat here for the people tuning in. That scene at the party where Ned goes to the party wearing a fedora because he's convinced it will make him look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about that age when I bought my first fedora. So cool.
And do you still wear them?
Now that I have a coat to match it, if I can find an excuse.
Nice.
Ned also has, I believe, the best joke in the movie where the teacher catches him helping Peter on the computer, and she's like, "What are you doing in here on the computer during the dance?" And he just goes, "Looking at porn." It's so great.
The one thing that he knew that she would believe.
Right. Also more believable and a better thing to say than what he was actually doing. Yes.
Yeah.
So Bamfing thumbs up. Chris, thumbs up from you on this movie?
Oh, absolutely. To me, it's up there with the absolute best of the Marvel films, and it's just so well timed. I mean, all of that saving the world, saving the universe stuff makes for some fine films. But getting back to the basics like this film does, just such a breath of fresh air. So well timed. Really, go see it.
Nice, Jason. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, go see it for Tom Holland and Michael Keaton alone.
Yeah.
Jacob, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Absolute thumbs up. This was a great Spider-Man movie.
And I'm coming to you, Chuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Best Marvel villain, best third act maybe of a Marvel movie. Super great. Go see it. Yeah.
And of course, Aid is going to give us his impressions of the film.
Yep, it's all groovy.
So now that we've tortured Spider-Man to death, let's see what other stuff we can dig into. I know, Aid, you wanted to talk about DC Metal.
I can talk about a little bit about the old Metal crossover at the moment. It looks interesting. I've only just picked up the second issue, the casting, which is lots of Batman running around trying to solve stuff that doesn't want to tell anybody exactly what's going on. But the apparently the existence of nth metal or
right on.
It is nth metal, isn't it? It's not nth metal. Yeah. Anyway, the existence of nth metal seems to basically be the possible instigator of superpowers in the DC universe. And it seems to be giving people that seems to be a thing that's going on. It's almost like a version of lead poisoning that gives you superpowers, which sounds pretty cool. But they seem to be tracking it back to possibly some stuff to do with Shazam, some stuff to do with why Joker survived the stuff in the Batman series, and then you've got this possibility that it is like a residue or something from a dark universe, or at least a series of dark universes, where we are now going to see 5 or 6 versions of Batman or Justice League Batman combinations going to pop up in the next issues or so. But
so are they? So they're introducing yet another take on the multiverse. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, this is the dark multiverse. So whether or not this is like the antimatter version of the multiverse, they haven't really established exactly what it is. But they don't seem to have swept away the idea that there is like the 52 worlds that was in Multiversity. Because that has been referenced in recently, even in recent issues of Nightwing and stuff like that, and obviously Superman with the stuff with him having his history changed and that kind of stuff. They've been to It's not Flashpoint, is it? The one with the Wave Rider was hanging around in. Oh, anyway, yeah, they've seen that, and they've seen like the other existing multiverses. But these are apparently new versions of characters we've not seen before, but they are effectively evil. So that's pretty much the thing. But yeah, it's good. I picked up. I got that, and I got like Detective and Batman. That was particularly good. Batman we've got the issue with the proposal to Catwoman, which was very, very good. And then 2 issues of the Riddler Joker War thing, which has actually been pretty decent as well. But yeah, Batman seems to be chugging on quite nicely. Detective, I'm not particularly sure about at the moment, but Batman itself is really, really good.
So who's writing that, by the way?
That would be Tom King.
Oh, okay, nice.
And Finch doing artwork mostly. And then I want to say, I can't pronounce this guy's name. I don't know if it's actually Janin or Yanin or for the issues 25 and 26, but bloody gorgeous artwork. Absolutely.
Yeah, the detective stuff has been really, really good lately. Now they're doing a thing about Azrael.
Yeah,
so they're doing a whole storyline about Azrael. That's been pretty weird, interesting.
I've been getting Detective and Batman for 25 years, so I've not dropped Detective at all because it's obviously I've got to stay with it. But the last couple of issues after Tim Drake disappeared and was kind of like, and then some stuff happened. It's like, yeah, characters. I'm not really worried about what's going on with Batwoman. Blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, oh, Azrael's coming back. Oh my god, he's got the Asbats costume again. This is going now.
Yeah, they just previewed the cover art for the next Detective, and it's the old Batman Knight fall suit.
So whether or not we've got a combination of Batman, obviously they seem to do a lot of this kind of thing where stuff in one series affects the other series. So whether or not they're saying about him possibly retiring because of the marriage to Catwoman, whether or not we get Azrael coming in taking over, or whether or not we get something happening in the Metal crossover that does something different. But yeah, I'm looking forward. I think the Azrael coming back is fantastic. Yeah.
And then how about you, Chuck? What are you reading that's sparking everybody's interest?
Well, what I am reading is I recently got a complete set of GURPS 3rd edition from a coworker of mine.
Okay.
Dear God, you're a masochist.
Yeah.
So,
are they like about 1,000 miles thick?
Yeah, I bought a new bookshelf that is 5 shelves, and 3.5 of them are just the GURPS.
Wow.
Nice.
So yeah, one of my coworkers at Mayfair, before he came to work for Mayfair, he was a MIB, a man in black, which is what Steve Jackson calls their demo people. And he had gotten every book in the line as one of the rewards for doing demos for them as it came out. He's not really a role-playing game guy, but he was unwilling to break the setup or sell it to someone who wasn't going to use it. And so he and I were in Vegas at a trade show together and at a tiki bar after work, as you do. And we're drinking. I'm like, man, you know what fucking rocks is GURPS. And the little light went off over his head. And he was like, oh, this is a sucker I could sell this thing to.
So when are you going to be running your online multiple realities from the time travel book game?
You know what? That is the last GURPS campaign I ran, was a time travel campaign. So maybe.
I have 2 GURPS books, and I don't even have the core rule book. And they've really strange ends of the bracket. One of them is GURPS Hellboy in the hardcover, which is really cool because it's rare as Rocky North poop. And the other one is also rare, is GURPS the Prisoner from the TV series.
Wow, I didn't even know they ever did that.
Exactly, because I don't think it was particularly well copyrighted. So it's like that was really difficult to get hold of. But I just like GURPS the Prisoner, I'm having it. So it's like I don't care if I ever use it. It's a prisoner book. We'll have that. But yeah.
Yeah, the Prisoner rocks.
Very cool.
People who don't like the Prisoner are suspect.
Yeah.
Apart from
they are unmutual.
Yeah.
The last episode was a bit dodgy, but apart from that.
Sure, yeah, of course. I mean, the last episode is, someone was doing drugs. Maybe the characters, maybe the writers. We don't know.
Seeing you.
Yeah.
Bloody great series. Anyway, sorry to.
No, it's all good. Speaking of which, Jacob, what are you reading right now that's new and hot?
I just picked up issue 0 of the 3rd volume of Matt Wagner's Mage series, The Hero Denied.
Nice.
Wow.
It's been a long time coming. I like the Mage series, you know, since back in the 80s when it started, and when they did that 90s series. That was a pretty nice continuation of the world and introducing the new characters. So I'm really curious to see when we get more into the story here with Hero Denied what we're going to be looking at.
Groovy. I just saw that pop up on Comixology, so it's in stores and Comixology and all that junk.
Yeah, issue 0 just came out this Wednesday.
Right on.
Nice.
How about it, Chris? What are you reading?
Well, nothing new and hot. Matter of fact, this is the week I found out how not new and how not hot I really am. I'm still reading The Flash like I always have. I'm still reading Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. I'm still reading Green Lanterns, and I'm enjoying all three. I'm enjoying Green Lanterns far more than I originally expected I would. I'm reading what I've all and Astro City. God, I can't forget about Astro City. And other than that, I'm just waiting for DC to get this Watchmen stuff out of their system if they ever do, and then maybe I'll see if I can move on to some other stuff.
I really love the Green Lantern's title. That Green Lantern's title is absolutely cool. The dynamic between Baez and Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that, especially when they just kidnapped them to go get training and certified. Did you read those issues?
Yeah, I honestly, even when the whole relationship between them can seem a little cliched and a little forced, the plots have kept that thing going. I mean, really, except for Alan Scott and Kyle Rayner, if you're a Green Lantern fan, you're there for the plots, because Hal Jordan is the most infinitely boring comic book character, successful comic book character ever created. And I really love that Green Lanterns, that the plots have always been solid. But you're right, when that book is really cooking, you really do have a lot of affection for those characters, especially Jessica. I mean, it's so weird that this comic book comes along at a time in my life when so many people really important to me have anxiety issues. And it's just so neat to be able to show this comic to them and they're like, "Oh my God, it's like somebody is in my head. You know, this is what my life is like." And we were having a discussion before the show about characters that have never been done before. Please help me if I've forgotten one, but I don't even think Ditko and Kirby and Lee ever thought of doing a character who's battling serious anxiety issues.
Can't think of anything.
Yeah.
But how cool is it that she still has the will to fight through all that and control the Green Lantern ring?
Of course, and hearing from the people that really have that condition, like, this is my life. This is somebody talking about what I do every day and saying I'm a superhero, and that aspect of it you gotta love.
Absolutely. So, what did you guys think about the news that dropped today that they're coming back with Deadman?
I'm glad that he's getting some work.
I'm glad, it's Neil Adams, because didn't Neil Adams create that character?
I'm the original artist on it. I think Arnold Drake was the original writer, but that's off the top of my head.
Either way, I love Neil Adams' work. Me being an artist and all. So yay.
Yeah, I genuinely like Neil Adams stuff. I like Deadman as a character. I was glad he was in Justice League Dark as a character, because even and like we've said before, the animated one, really cool in that as well. My one worry is that it goes Neil Adams and the Batman 12 issue thing where Batman's got the gun and stuff, and it goes, "Whoa!" And everyone goes, "What the hell just happened in that issue? Batman's shooting people? What's going on?" Hopefully, it doesn't go that way, and we've got actually a cool story. But I think it's is it a 12 issue? I believe it's a 12 issue miniseries. I think it's something quite substantial. So they've obviously got faith in it, that it's not like, "Hey, it's overdone in 3. Don't worry about it. It's just Deadman." But again, DC pulling characters out there for that you've never seen before, or not for a long time, and that's cool. So
here's my prediction. At the end of issue 1, Batman shoots a dude and then says, "Hail Hydra."
That could happen.
Gosh.
That could happen.
I'd pay to see that.
And no, I'm trying to look at this from the mindset of the current DC trust, where they look at you blankly for a second and they go, "Well, what's that got to do with Watchmen?" It's the kind that is it because it's really the comedian under the bat mask? Ooh,
that's the weird thing about the whole Watchmen thing, that we've had it since we're a year into Rebirth now, and we've only really even had like alluding to it. We've not even had any confirmation yet, apart from the blue hand. That's it. And it's really odd, because you thought by now they might be going, yeah, okay, here's one of the Watchmen characters.
Right.
Let's carry on with the storyline, and then you'll see what happens now. But it's like, well, we're not even saying it's the Watchmen yet. You're a year into it. We could be tricking you. It's really weird. Really weird.
I have a theory. I have a theory that just popped in my head. I have no backing for it other than it just popped into my head. It's almost like that when DC realized they were in trouble because of the DCU thing tanked.
Yeah.
That they thought, okay, well, let's try another reboot, but we got to have a backup plan that makes this that really sells this reboot, that really carries it through. And like, oh, okay, all right, we'll play the Watchmen card, and the whole Watchmen thing will make this make this rebirth thing work. And then, much to their surprise, just putting good, talented people on good books and getting away from that whole New 52 aesthetic was enough to where now they're eating Marvel's lunch.
Yeah, I think
now I think they're kind of sitting around wondering, we don't even do we really even need to play the Watchmen card? Yeah. I mean, we don't seem to need to be in a hurry to do it, because that really doesn't seem to be what's carrying this new renaissance for us.
Yeah, I think that the idea of Rebirth and bringing back characters that actually people wanted to see. Yeah. And they can't, and the reason for it would be like, hey, Watchmen as well, chuck it in there for an extra mixer. Oh shite! What do we do now? We've got to do some Watchmen stuff now? Oh my god! What do we do? It seems, yeah. It could have got away with not even that in at all. And the idea you've got, Wally West coming back, and hopefully the JSA coming back, and and the timeline's going back to where, and we've actually got stuff that happened to Superman actually happened to Superman, rather than going, well, happened this week, but next week it's not going to happen because somebody screwed up the time.
Wait. So are you guys saying that if you write good comics about characters people like, that people will buy those comics? What the fuck are you talking about?
I had heard that rumor once upon a time that good comics are good to read.
I hate sound like a business plan to me at all.
I hate to shoot holes in the idea that make everything like it was in 1992, including rehiring Rob Liefeld, isn't the path to success. But
okay, so everyone's seen the lineup now for the new Marvel stuff, yeah, for the Legacy stuff. Is there any titles on the Legacy titles that anyone's interested in?
No, I mean, not maybe. No.
X-Men Blue. I mean, okay, I like the lineup, but I'm thoroughly convinced based on recent history they're going to fuck it up somehow. There you go. That's my quote unquote optimism.
There's two titles in it that I've got Man-Thing in my pool for this week.
Oh hell yeah!
And that's issue 5, and that's it. After this issue of Man-Thing goes, next month's thing will be the first time I've not had a Marvel book in my pull list for like 20 years, and it's just crazy. And there's 2 books in the new Legacy lineup that I'm interested in. One of them is Marvel 2-in-1, because it is effectively, hey, it's half the Fantastic Four. Why not? If they do a good job of it, fantastic. Brilliant. I'm chuffed. And if it brings back the Fantastic Four, even better. Yeah. And the other one is Spirits of Vengeance, purely because the lineup of Blade, Ghost Rider, Satana, and Damien Hellstrom is just too cool. And they've literally just announced that that's only a 5-issue miniseries, which makes me even more happier, because they've probably got a decent story to tell in 5 issues. Rather than say, okay, well, after 5 issues, we've got a new creative team coming into it, and it just goes off the rails, and no one even likes it anymore.
And we're renumbering it.
Then no, they're not renumbering it. That's weird as well. No, they're not. It's from issue 1, which is odd. The whole renumbering thing is very strange.
Yeah.
But I dropped Spider-Gwen about 3 months ago, and then the big thing about Spider-Gwen is she's going to become a Venom. It's like, oh my god, why are you doing that?
Of course she is, yeah.
That's because they're going to be doing a Venom series soon, where everyone becomes a Venom.
Yeah,
everyone gets a symbiote.
It's just I don't know. But I'm saddened by the fact that there are no Marvel books out there that seem to be like, oh my god, I'm so looking forward to this. I'm so looking forward to that. It seems to be it's just mad. And the DC stuff. Saying that, the next lot of Marvel books I did say to we'll talk about this as well. The next lot of Marvel books I want to pick up is the Kirby anniversary books they're bringing out. In the 100th anniversary, they're reprinting 16, I think it is, of the old Kirby books for like $1 each or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. It's like Black Panther, but whatever, Fantastic Four, whatever. And I'm looking forward to them more than I'm looking forward to anything in the core mainstream books.
Yeah. Well, and for the longest time, by the way, Marvel, like Tom Brevoort would get out there and say, well, if you don't like what we're doing, don't buy it. That'll get our attention. Okay. Message received, Tom. Fuck off.
That's it. Just like, yeah, exactly. But it seems weird. I mean, even the whole idea of legacy and bringing stuff back to like original characters. They've half promised Banner's coming back as the Hulk, but the first solicitation of Hulk is Amadeus Cho going to Planet Hulk, which was destroyed. So it's like okay, so, okay, fine, whatever. And then the other thing that's annoying about the Generations books with the 2 generations of characters in it. It's like, okay, that sounds really cool. But instead of doing what DC would have probably done and say, okay, they're $2.99 books, they're $5 books. Yeah. Or $4.99 books. And it's like, so it's like, oh my God, do you really want to do that? Yeah. Do you really want to just do a rebirth, give everyone a $2.99 jumping on point and go from there. But they just, not interested.
No, it's so amazing to me, like the wonderment in people that work at Marvel's voices. At least I imagine wonderment in their voices when I read this shit. One of the retailer summit quotes that I read was like, well, the renumbering thing, we really like the idea because it's a renumbering it is a great way to signal that it's a jumping on point. But what we started to discover is that also makes it a really great jumping off point. Well, of course it does, you moron.
Exactly. What? And that's it. And I 95% of the time, that's exactly when I will do it. If a creative team changes and it's like, okay, well, they've got different artists and I'm not really interested, then that's when I jump on. Or if they do like, oh, we're relaunching in issue 1, that's brilliant. That means I haven't got to buy it again now.
Thank you. You set me free.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, okay, I've got if I've got 23 issues of the 25 proposed issues, I will buy the last 2 issues, but I won't pick up the number 1 for the next month when it relaunches.
Right.
If I'm not enjoying it, so it's just like whatever. So it's weird. It's odd. But I am saddened by the fact that there is not a series of Marvel books that I'm really genuinely excited about. I used to be an X-Men fan. I used to go every time I used to go to the comic store, I'd buy the current issue of the X-Men and buy a back issue of the X-Men. That goes back to like 1984, and then I go to back like 1982, 1981, or whatever. And that's the way I used to do it. And then I just dropped X-Men, and I've never gone back because it just doesn't seem to be like the X-Men anymore.
Yeah, Ed Brubaker and Brian Michael Bendis collectively worked a magic spell that made me not give a fuck about the X-Men anymore. It's like what if we took your favorite character, my favorite character in the X-Men for years and years was Cyclops. Like, what if we just made him a raging incompetent dick? What about that? Like, not even just a dick. That would be fine. That I could wrap my head around. But also, we're going to make him terrible at his job of running the X-Men.
Yeah, I honestly just don't understand how it is that Brian Michael Bendis did such a good job with Ultimate Spider-Man and the stories on that particular series, yet everything else he has written for has just left the worst taste in my mouth.
Well, here's the thing. In my opinion, I love Brian Michael Bendis's writing when he's writing characters that are spazzes, because his characters tend to do really dumb things in kind of amusing and interesting ways. And so if he's writing Jessica Jones, if he's writing Luke Cage, if he's writing Spider-Man, it's like, yeah, this makes sense. But anytime he tries to write someone like Cyclops or Doctor Strange or Iron Man, like his definitive Doctor Strange moment, Iron Man moment is cool mustache bros, right? I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah.
Well, does that go back to what we were talking about before the podcast, where certain people can write based on their experience and outside of their experience, but certain people can't?
Right.
So, like, this is a man who's trying to write a billionaire playboy philanthropist,
Right.
and that's not who he is. So, he can't write him properly.
Well,
whereas somebody else would have no problem doing that.
His X-Men, I liked his take on the young X-Men, the 5 originals that he had pulled through time, but like anytime adult Cyclops and adult Emma would talk to each other in like cute, hip, modern speak, it's like that's not how they ever talked, and that's not how they talk. That's not how they would sound.
Again, the X-Men, that X-Men where they pulled them from the 60s, effectively pulled them from the 60s, I thought was a cool idea. The artwork was beautiful straight away. The artwork was really nice in that book.
Yeah.
And then they kind of like did that bit where they go, Beast goes, well, I've been back to where we come from, and we're already there. So we're not from there at all. We're from somewhere else. It's like things to be like, you've copped out. You've basically said that was a cool storyline, but now because they're quite popular, screw that. Let's go and do something different.
Right.
And it's like, but what does that mean now? What does that mean to the original plot? The idea is like, okay, they're going to go back and something bad's going to happen because just seems weird.
Yeah.
Just seems really strange.
Yeah.
Wasn't that like RPGs when, you got the guy that really was into his character when he started, but then he decides, well, no, I'm going to retcon the origin right now, and he's actually from this time. Is there a bit of that floating around? Is that what's causing that?
Yeah, I
a lot of sighing going on.
Yeah, I get. It's the thing. I keep saying. I've said this too many times already today, but I said it before. It's the TV thing where people go, "Hey, let's do a really cool series. Brilliant. How long is it going to be? 10 episodes. It's going to be a self-contained story. It's going to be fantastic." Get to episode 10, you sit back and you go, "That was absolutely spectacular. That was brilliant." And then you get the ones who go, "Right, well, it'll be 2 seasons, but we probably can stretch it to 4 seasons if it's quite popular." And by season 3, people are just going, "Oh, this is absolutely shite. Why am I watching this for?" And by season 4, you've even forgotten it even existed. So you forget about the first 2 seasons. That's what New X-Men should have been. That should have been like, hey, this is the cool story. It's done. It's finished. Move on to the next thing. People can go back and say that was brilliant, but it's like Chris, like what Chris has got to like thinks of the Watchmen. Watchmen was 12 issues. It was great. Don't worry about it after that. And I agree. I love the Watchmen series. And if they'd never done the other books, they wouldn't have bothered me at all. And I think it's brave to basically say, right, instead of milking this, let's do something different that can also be appreciated for being good, rather than keep bringing back the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't like the 12 seasons of Supernatural that we've gotten?
Do you know what? I didn't even realize it'd been going that long.
Right?
It's crazy because I saw like the first series, and the first series was like, yeah, let's go and kill a monster today. Okay, let's kill another monster today. Right? Yeah, fair enough. And then I heard there was like some like overarching plots, and apparently they got like resolved by season 5. And you're thinking, okay, so they must be on season 8 by now. Season 13. What's that? That's just nuts.
Yeah, Supernatural is like the Bataan Death March of television shows. It's ridiculous. It never ends. It will never end.
It still hasn't beaten Bonanza.
That's true. It's got a ways to go.
Isn't Doctor Who the longest running TV series for scripted?
Law and Order, isn't it?
Doctor Who's been going since the 60s.
Yeah, but didn't it have a broken period of time?
Yeah, a broken period of time. If you
Doctor Who ended. Yeah.
89 and 96.
I think it might still be Gunsmoke, honestly. Because I think Law and Order, I literally think Law and Order was like 1 year away and they canceled it. And Dick Wolf was like, "What the fuck, guys? I was about to bring this thing home. What are you doing?"
Now Gunsmoke ran for 20 years. I think The Simpsons is already well past that.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. That's
24. True. Yeah, I was saying now 27. Anyway,
yeah.
Sorry,
looking up what is the longest running television show in history.
Okay, go.
Gunsmoke with 20 seasons. Law and Order has caught up with it now at 20 seasons.
Right. They wound up tied, but that's strictly talking about live action.
Yeah, and how does that go with like stuff in the UK? We've got a Coronation Street soap opera in the UK, which goes back to the early 60s. It's been one continuous show without a break.
I think there's some obscure rule that since you're an English-speaking British Commonwealth country, you don't count.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I don't know.
That could be it. That might be the reason then.
You're forgetting the America fuck yeah clause.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, when other people say that, it sounds stupid, but when you say it, Chuck, it sounds absolutely fucking brilliant.
Yeah. You know, hey, also fuck Brussels. Also that. I'm firm on this. It's never going away. Fuck Brussels.
So before we call it a podcast, anybody want to talk up some gaming stuff? Chuck, do you have anything coming in, such as a Legion of the Undead assaulting a police station?
Yeah, that is out. The Solace Police Department, which is continuing my site-based story light RPG adventures, kind of the zombie apocalypse version of an old school dungeon where you're going there because there are guns there and you want guns, so clear it out. And I'm beginning work on what is going to be by far the biggest series of adventures I've ever done for After Zombies. My brilliant cartographer who did the police department map for me is currently about halfway done with a map of zombie apocalypse Ellis Island, which the players are going to retake with the idea to turn it into a base from which to explore New York.
That's a perfect place to do it from. That's cool.
Yeah, so that is in process. The map, as I said, is about 50% done. Jan and I, the cartographer, we talked about it, and he disappeared for about a month and came back and was like, this is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. I hope you haven't been wondering where I was. And I was like, no, I knew exactly where you were. I knew this was going to be hard. So yeah.
Just tell him if he wants to quicken the pace a little bit, just set a bomb off halfway down, just knock everything flat. And it's wasteland. The south part is just wasteland. Don't worry about that. That's fine.
That's a good idea. I should tell him that.
So where can people? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chuck. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Walt.
I was going to say, where can people pick up that adventure if they're looking for the Solace Police Station?
Solace Police Station is being sold at RPG Now and Drive Through RPG. I because I'm terrible at math and always price my products too low, I'm selling it for the princely sum of $1.50 American.
That is fantastic. Speaking of American ingenuity, Jacob, what did you just drop? Something involving somebody dressed as a dinosaur?
Indeed. Superpowered Legends' new PDF product is Pteranodon, a winged dinosaur powered armor technology thief. Imagine that.
Huh.
I could have never seen that one coming.
Never ever saw that coming. No, it was totally original idea. But yeah, if you're wanting to do a winged technology thief villain, this is my guideline for how to do that, and it's set in my Superpowered Legends universe. Which, by the way, I want to additionally plug. We will be kickstarting in September the collection of the first 100 of Superpowered Legends PDFs into one giant, massive volume.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we're hoping to, with stretch goals, add on characters and more world information as well. On the icons side, we've just released Ares, the God of War, for people who like the legendary universe icons instead of mutants and masterminds. You now have a new big evil god to play with.
Nice.
Because you can never have too many of those.
I'm sorry, Jacob. And where did you get the idea that Ares would make a good villain? Was that in a no? They would never make a movie.
Greek mythology.
That, right? Oh, okay. Huh. Okay.
But yeah, you can find all those on DriveThruRPG, RPGNow.com, and the Open Game Store.
Nice. So I heard a rumor that some other people on the panel might have been involved in the Ennies voting. Is there some people here that are nominated for anything?
Yeah, well, I'm up for one for the part of the Cosmic Handbook that I actually did write. along with a bunch of really talented folks who probably did more to get the nomination than I did. And Mr. Ade Smith, I think has roughly 87 Emmy nominations for the Atlas. I lost count, but congratulations for them all.
I have one. Well, yeah. I'm always really cynical that I always think that it's for the 90% that I didn't contribute to for the Emmy or the actual Emmy nomination, and the bit that I did was like, well, it's there. Oh, well, what the hell.
Well, we weren't going to nominate this book, but I guess if Ade did it, we have to nominate it, right? Isn't that how that works?
You got to. It's almost a rule.
Yeah.
So who's going to be accepting on your behalf when this thing? Because you know it's going to win. So
well, I'll be there.
Oh, so Jacob's going to be accepting on your behalf. How is your Cockneyed accent?
Terrible.
Oh, I could do this. I'll just walk up and say, "Oi, mate," to everything anyone says. That'll be fine. Right?
Yes.
It's like Ade's in the room. Yeah.
That's it. It's just like it.
Yeah.
Do like a series of an episode of Futurama where he just holds up a recorder and plays somebody else's voice.
You could do it by remote. That'd be cool.
Oh, you could go up with an iPad and Abe could just Skype in.
I'm sure the Green Ronin crew will be there to accept it.
They have much more right to it.
Okay. Quick story about the Ronins at the award show. Okay, 3 years ago, I think it was, when Emerald City was up for best electronic product. I'm an introvert. It takes me a while to get warmed up in a public setting. That's why I love being a teacher. I can check roll. That gives me time to find my center and go with that. Well, I talked to everybody at the Ronin booth, and everybody else wasn't feeling the Ennies or had something scheduled. So literally, I was there by myself to collect the Ennie for Emerald City. And I managed to get through it. And that just happened to be the category right before they went to intermission. And after we go to intermission, two of the first people I see are Nicole Lindroos and Kate, her daughter, who, if you know Ronin at Gen Con, you know them. And I thought you two weren't coming. And they came to me with these big smiles and said, we just told you that because we wanted to see what you would do having to give the speech by yourself.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, that's classic Nicole.
So I'm glad she did it. I mean, it made me realize I can get through these things by myself. So yeah, I actually owe her one for that one. Not to mention, having enough faith in me, putting me on the book in the first place. So yeah, there's that.
And then she can help you become an open water swimmer by taking you out on a boat and just throwing you off, right?
Well, I am from rural Virginia. I could probably drown in a bathtub. Again, I would probably owe her one for that.
Wow, this Stockholm syndrome is amazing.
Oh my God! Well, before my German Shepherd tries to chew my leg off, or something else furry jumps in my lap to try and claw something, we're gonna call this a podcast. So, guys, thanks again for coming out today and for sharing the thoughts about Spider-Man. Really appreciate it. And I just want to apologize to Mike Lafferty that we executed several Shia LaBeouf jokes while he wasn't here. I think that's a violation of the contract. I'm not sure. I got to check it. But guys, on behalf of the BAMF podcast, really appreciate you coming out today, and we'll catch you next time. So, BAMF.